Marcus Hayes woke before dawn, the soft hum of the city barely stirring outside his small apartment window. The muted glow of streetlights cast long shadows across the narrow room he shared with his daughter, Emma, whose light breathing told him she was still asleep. Marcus made a silent promise to himself. Today would be different. He would find a way to make ends meet, to give Emma the stable life she deserved. He slipped into his worn-out jeans and a faded t-shirt, the fabric thin from countless washes. He ran a hand through his short, cropped hair, thinking back to last year when everything had looked so promising. Back then, he had a steady job at the local warehouse, stacking boxes and managing inventory. The hours were long, but he took pride in his work. He earned enough to pay the rent and buy groceries for himself and Emma. He even managed to take her to the park on weekends, watching her laugh as she chased pigeons and climbed the jungle gym. But the warehouse had closed without warning one chilly November morning. The owner had blamed shrinking profits and rising costs, leaving dozens of employees suddenly without work. Marcus had scanned every job listing he could find, filling out applications online and walking into shops and restaurants with a confident smile that masked his growing anxiety. Some places hired him for a day or two, then let him go when business slowed down. Others never called back. Bills piled up on his kitchen table. He dreading opening the envelope bearing the utility company's name, knowing he could barely scrape together enough for last month's electricity. Emma noticed the change before he could hide it. She asked why they had fewer snacks in the pantry, why they were eating beans and rice so often. Marcus forced a gentle laugh and told her they were having rice and beans week, a silly way to make it seem like a planned treat. Every evening, after tucking Emma into bed with a bedtime story, lately, The Little Prince, since it reminded him of a child's pure-hearted wonder, he sat at the kitchen table under the single naked bulb and scoured job ads on his old laptop. His eyes burned from staring at the screen too long, but he refused to give up. He even practiced speaking lines in the mirror, preparing for interviews that never came. One afternoon, he spotted an ad that made him pause. Sterling Innovations, a tech firm known for its sleek offices and cutting-edge gadgets, was hiring overnight cleaners. Marcus had never worked in a corporate setting. He pictured glass walls and designer furniture, executives in sharp suits. It sounded intimidating. But the pay was enough to cover the rent and give Emma better meals. He filled out the online form, attaching a resume that highlighted his reliability and work ethic. He hesitated before hitting submit, worry twisting in his stomach. Could he, a former warehouse worker and single father, survive in that environment? He shrugged off the doubt. He would find out soon enough. 3 days later, a polite email landed in his inbox. "We'd like to invite you for an interview." His heart raced as he showed the message to Emma, her eyes lighting up in the morning sun. She clapped her small hands. "That's great, Dad. You'll get the job, I know it." Marcus hugged her tight, the weight on his shoulders feeling a little lighter. The interview took place in a lobby as shiny as a mirror. He waited on a plush couch, feeling out of place in his simple clothes. A friendly supervisor named Carla greeted him and led him through a tour. She showed him the corridors he would clean, the break room where staff left coffees untouched, and the secured doors that required special keycards. At the end, she asked if he could start that night. Marcus swallowed his nerves and nodded. "Yes, ma'am, I can start tonight." That evening, he arrived at Sterling Innovations carrying a mop and bucket over his shoulder. The building was empty, its lights dimmed except for a few perimeter lamps. The air smelled faintly of polish and recycled air from the big HVAC system. Marcus felt a pang of pride and anxiety as he pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway. He reminded himself that every job mattered, that keeping floors spotless helped the company run smoothly. As he worked, memories of Emma danced through his mind. He pictured her doing her homework at the kitchen table, her curly hair falling over the pages of a workbook. He thought of the way her face lit up when he told her stories before bed, how she clutched his finger and whispered, "I love you, Daddy." He wiped a smudge from a conference room table and imagined her laughter echoing off those walls if she were there, playing hide-and-seek among the chairs. Late in the shift, he found himself outside a glass-walled office on the top floor. The soft glow inside revealed a single person hunched over a desk, typing furiously. Marcus paused, uncertain whether he should interrupt. But as he turned to move on, a pane of glass rattled slightly. Startled, Marcus stepped closer and realized the door was unlocked. He cleared his throat gently. "Excuse me, I don't mean to disturb." A woman looked up, surprise flashing across her face. She was younger than he expected, her dark hair pulled back in a loose style, her blouse crisp and her expression tired but determined. Marcus recognized the logo on her laptop, Sterling Innovations. He realized he was looking at the CEO herself, working past midnight on some urgent project. She blinked and offered a polite, weary smile. "Sorry, I didn't realize anyone was still here." Her voice was calm with a hint of exhaustion. Marcus held out a hand, half expecting her to recoil. "Marcus Hayes, I'm the new cleaner. I'm just finishing up." Something in his simple honesty softened her shoulders. She closed her laptop with a decisive click. "Alex Reed," she said, offering her hand. Despite the difference in their roles, her grip was warm, firm. He followed her instructions as she showed him how to lock the server room door behind her. She explained that she needed a secure code to access some files for an investor presentation in the morning. Marcus listened carefully, appreciating the trust she placed in a brand new employee. When she realized she left her thumb drive in the common area below, Marcus didn't hesitate. He jogged down 3 flights of stairs in his work boots, found the drive nestled beside an empty coffee cup, and raced back up. Alex was waiting just outside the server room looking at her watch. Relief washed over her face when she saw Marcus approach. He handed her the drive. "Here you go, ma'am." She slipped the drive into her laptop, and the screen flickered to life. "Marcus, you just saved my project," she said, voice soft, with gratitude. "Thank you." He shrugged, cheeks warming. "Just doing my job." She nodded, looking at him with new respect. "More than that." Later, as Marcus resumed cleaning, he thought about the unexpected twist in his night. Running errands for the CEO of a major tech firm. He had never imagined his new job would involve moments like these, moments that reminded him that kindness and competence mattered more than titles. When he finally locked the main doors and stepped outside into the cool night air, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had a job that paid his rent, fed his daughter, and even brought him within reach of people he once thought were out of his league. He walked home under the streetlights, thinking of tomorrow's shift and the small notes he might leave by the coffee machine, notes to remind himself that each night held surprises, each mop stroke a step toward a better life for him and Emma. Inside his apartment, he found Emma waiting for him with a sleepy smile. She was curled up on the couch, clutching a stuffed rabbit. He scooped her into his arms and kissed her forehead. "How was your night, kiddo?" he whispered. She yawned and snuggled closer. "Good, Daddy. I dreamed you were a superhero." Marcus laughed softly, pressing his cheek to hers. "That sounds about right." As he tucked her into bed, he felt a flicker of hope. The world could be unpredictable, but here in the quiet glow of their little home, he knew he would fight every challenge for Emma's sake. And whatever tomorrow brought, he was ready to meet it. One night shift, one priceless moment at a time. Marcus arrived at Sterling Innovations that night, just as the city lights blinked on below. The air was thick and warm, and he paused for a moment at the revolving door, inhaling the faint scent of polished floors and high-end electronics lingering in the lobby. In his hand, he carried the cleaning cart, its wheels squeaking softly. He had learned the building's layout by heart over the past week. Every corridor, every conference room, every empty cubicle row where late-night workers sometimes clattered away. Tonight, though, he felt a flutter of nerves. He wondered if Alex Reed might still be here, wrestling with her files, desperate for help again. He began in the East Wing, wiping fingerprints from glass doors and vacuuming the plush carpet until it rippled under his machine's nozzle. As he worked, his mind drifted back to the first time he'd met Alex. her tired eyes lighting up when he returned her thumb drive. He had never expected to feel proud of a simple act of kindness, and yet the memory warmed him more than the overhead. Lights. He straightened a row of overturned chairs in a small meeting room, imagining they were arranged for a busy board meeting rather than as they currently sat. Forgotten and empty. Halfway through the wing, Marcus heard faint typing from behind a frosted glass wall. He recognized the room number 23C, the same suite where Alex worked. He paused, mop in hand, listening. The clicking grew urgent, and he sensed her frustration before he saw her. Pushing open the door a crack, he looked inside and found Alex, hunched over her keyboard, eyes narrowed at the screen. Hair tousled as if she'd been running her fingers through it all evening. Piles of papers lay scattered on the desk, some covered in hastily scribbled notes. Marcus cleared his throat gently. "Excuse me, Alex. I'm in this part of the floor. Is there anything I can do to help?" Alex looked up, startled at first, then flashed a grateful smile. "Marcus, hi. I'm trying to upload these reports to the cloud, but my password keeps getting rejected and the network is timing out." Her voice was weary but tinged with relief at seeing him. He remembered the lock she'd shown him last time and the code to the server room. If the network was the problem, he knew the backup modem lived in the janitor's closet down the hall. "I can check the network box for you," he offered, stepping forward. "It's usually behind the maintenance door." She nodded, standing and tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." Together they walked to the closet, and Marcus knelt on the floor to inspect the connections. In the dim light, he found the loose cable and clicked it firmly into place. The little modem light flickered on. Alex exhaled a long breath. "You're a lifesaver," she said softly. He shrugged, smiling. "Just glad I could fix it." Back in her office, Alex sat at her desk and tried again. The upload bar inched forward, steady and unthreatening this time. She watched it with an intensity that reminded Marcus of an artist carefully brushing paint. He returned to his cart but paused near the door. "Marcus, while you're here, would you mind grabbing me a coffee? I know it's late, but I need to stay awake until this is done." Marcus hesitated, surprised by the direct request, but feeling honored. "Sure, regular black." "Please," she said, relief in her eyes. He wheeled his cart down to the break room where leftover cups of cold coffee and half-eaten pastries lay on counters. He filled a fresh cup from the machine, dutifully adding the cream and sugar Alex preferred when she left notes on his cart. As he carried the coffee back, he wondered how someone so powerful could be so vulnerable in a place she often occupied alone. In her office, Alex took the steaming cup and offered him a faint smile. "You didn't have to do that." Marcus set the cup on a coaster beside her keyboard. "I didn't mind, it's part of the job." Her gaze met his, and for a moment the distance between their worlds seemed to vanish. He noticed the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, evidence of late nights and high pressure. She looked at him not as the cleaning staff but as someone worthy of her trust. The upload finished with a soft chime. Alex leaned back, stretching her arms above her head. Marcus watched the way her blouse lifted slightly, revealing the toned shape of her back. He shook off the momentary spark of attraction. He wasn't here to flirt. He was here to work. "Thank you, Marcus," Alex said, her voice steady. "I owe you more than I can say." He nodded, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. "Anytime." He returned to his cleaning, polishing the glass walls of her office corridor until they gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Whenever he paused, he glanced into her suite and saw her busy on another task, her focus unwavering. The distance between them felt smaller now, two people in the same quiet building, each relying on the other's skills. As the night deepened, Marcus finished his rounds on the top floor and began descending to the lower levels. He passed offices, with chairs flipped onto desks, dimmed alcoves where surveillance cameras watched emptiness. The building was a maze of silence, but he no longer felt alone. He carried with him the memory of Alex's gratitude and the knowledge that kindness could bridge gaps no title ever could. Later, as he locked the main doors behind him, Marcus paused on the front steps and looked up at the towering skyscraper. The windows shimmered like scattered stars against the night sky. Somewhere inside, Alex sat at her desk, poring over plans for the company's future. And somewhere else, his daughter lay asleep, dreaming peacefully. He breathed in the cool air and reminded himself why he had taken this job, to provide for Emma, to show her she mattered. But now he knew there was more. He had discovered trust and friendship in the most unexpected place. He felt a sense of purpose that went beyond sweeping floors and emptying trash cans. He felt connected to something bigger, an unspoken promise, that as long as he did his best, life could surprise him in the best ways. Marcus headed home, the city's hum following him. He thought about tomorrow's shift and whether Alex would still need his help. He smiled at the thought of her sending another coffee order or leaving a note tucked among his cleaning supplies. He pushed open his apartment door, greeted by Emma's soft stirrings. She opened her eyes and smiled sleepily at him. "Did you help your new friend tonight?" she asked, voice small and drowsy. "I did," Marcus said, tucking the blanket around her shoulders. "She's a bit like you, working hard to make big things happen." Emma yawned and snuggled closer. "I like her," she whispered. Marcus kissed her forehead and sat beside her on the bed. "Me too, kiddo. Me too." He stayed there a moment, longer, listening to Emma's breathing even out. Then he rose quietly, flicked off the hallway light and stepped into the night, ready for whatever surprises tomorrow might bring. Night after night, Marcus found himself arriving at the gleaming lobby of Sterling Innovations with a growing sense of purpose. He no longer saw the floors he cleaned as mere tasks, but as pathways to small moments that mattered. Each evening, as he polished glass walls and emptied waste baskets, he scanned the corridors for Alex's door. Sometimes she'd already left, but more often these days he spotted the faint glow of her office lights. He learned her routine, the way she tapped her pen when deep in thought, the careful stacking of papers before a deadline. And Alex began to notice him too, his steady presence, the way he nodded a greeting that carried genuine warmth. One late shift, Marcus discovered a little stack of blank note cards tucked inside a drawer in the break room. He paused, unsure at first, but then wrote a simple message on one. "Coffee for Alex? Regular black." He left it by the machine with a small smile. The next night, when he brought her coffee, he found a matching note on his cart. "Thank you, Marcus, you are appreciated." Seeing Alex's handwriting gave him a thrill. He realized that kindness worked both ways, and that in a building designed for efficiency and profit, small gestures could build bridges between very different lives. Their friendship deepened in these unspoken exchanges. Alex began to leave extra pens and sticky tabs on his trolley, tools she no longer had immediate use for, but that he might find helpful for labeling and organizing his cleaning supplies. Marcus, in return, refilled the printer paper tray in her office and aligned her keyboard neatly when he emptied trash bins nearby. Each act was anonymous but heartfelt. Neither of them spoke of these favors, yet both felt the growing bond. It was as if they created a silent partnership. She trusted him to look out for her workspace after hours, and he trusted her to see beyond the uniform he wore. Outside work, Marcus worried about crossing invisible lines. He wasn't blind to the way other staff might whisper if a cleaner spent too much time near the executive offices. He pictured snide comments on social media, rumors of favoritism, or worse, questions about his past and his lowly position in the company. Whenever he caught himself staring at his reflection in the office glass, jeans, t-shirt, work boots, he felt a pang of insecurity. He reminded himself that his daughter depended on him, that his hard work was what put food on their table. Still, he couldn't shake the fear that one misstep might bring unwanted scrutiny on both himself and Alex. Alex, too, carried her own burdens. She had inherited the CEO title barely a year ago, after the sudden retirement of her predecessor. The board watched her every move, waiting for any miscalculation. She had poured herself into the company's turnaround plan, working long nights alone to fine-tune investor pitches and product designs. Social events with potential clients were scheduled weeks in advance. Spontaneous late-night breaks for coffee were unheard of. When she sent Marcus off for fresh brew, she always winced at the thought of what others might think. Yet she pushed, aside her caution, drawn by the comfort of his easy demeanor and practical help. One Saturday morning, Sterling Innovations hosted a charity open house for employees and their families. When Marcus arrived, having asked for the day off to spend time with Emma, he was surprised to see an invitation waiting for him at the security desk. "Feel free to attend with a guest. AR." He scanned the invitation, unsure if it was meant for him, but the security guard nodded and handed him a badge. Emma, clutching his hand, bounced with excitement as they walked into the bright atrium full of smiling faces, colorful balloons, and booths showcasing the company's community projects. Emma ran straight for the face painting station while Marcus wandered toward a refreshments table. To his astonishment, Alex appeared beside him, holding a tray of homemade cookies. She wore a simple dress and a sincere smile that made her look less like a corporate titan and more like a friendly neighbor. "I'm glad you could come," she said quietly, handing him a plate of cookies. "Emma said she wanted to see where I work." Marcus cleared his throat, his chest tightening with gratitude. "Thank you for inviting us," he managed. "Emma's having the best time." Throughout the morning, Emma darted between activities, her laughter echoing off the glass walls. She proudly showed Alex her painted butterfly wings and introduced her to every friend she made. Marcus watched the two of them together and felt a warmth he hadn't known in years. Alex knelt beside Emma, measuring her for a small lab coat in the Junior Innovators Science Corner. As she did, she whispered to Marcus, "She's brilliant, just like you." Marcus swallowed hard, unaccustomed to praise from anyone, let alone the CEO. It was a rare moment when class lines melted away, leaving two parents united by pride in their child. But even such a joyful day brought its challenges. As they left, Marcus noticed a familiar face near the parking garage, Carl Thompson, a senior board member known for his conservative views. Thompson's eyebrows lifted as he spotted Marcus walking beside Alex, Emma bouncing ahead. He gave Marcus a curt nod, but his eyes held a flicker of disapproval. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He wondered if Thompson would report this informal friendship to other executives, tainting Alex's reputation or his own. Marcus squared his shoulders and put on a polite smile, determined that no whispers would spoil their day. Back at home, Emma babbled excitedly about cookie stations and face paint, while Marcus replayed every moment of the event with Alex in his mind. He loved the way she had patiently guided Emma through the science activities, treating her as a budding innovator instead of just someone's child. Yet he also worried about the fallout. Would Thompson's disapproval turn into office gossip? Would Alex face questions about why her cleaner had a family pass to an exclusive company event? He pushed these thoughts aside when Emma curled up beside him and asked him to read The Little Prince once more. As he turned the pages, he resolved to protect their friendship and their peace, no matter what obstacles lay ahead. The following week, rumors began to surface. A fellow cleaner mentioned that he'd seen Marcus spending extra time in the back hallway near the trading floor. Another whispered that the CEO had personally requested a private cleaning demonstration. Marcus tried to ignore the buzz, focusing, instead, on his rounds and the unspoken partnership he shared with Alex. But one evening, as he polished the conference room windows, he heard raised voices through the glass. He peered inside and recognized the stern face of Carl Thompson, arms crossed, addressing Alex in a low, firm tone. He couldn't make out the exact words, but Alex's tense posture told him everything. She was being lectured. Marcus felt a rush of protectiveness, but he knew better than to interrupt. Instead, he waited until the tension dissipated and Alex emerged from the room alone. She closed the door behind her and gave him a small, weary smile. "Stay close to the exit tonight," she said softly, referring to his cleaning route. "I may need you on standby." Marcus nodded, though his heart pounded. He understood her unspoken request. She trusted him enough to call on his help in a moment of crisis. It didn't matter that he wore sturdy boots instead of polished loafers. In that moment, they were equals in loyalty. As he finished his shift, Marcus reflected on the challenges they both faced. The whispers of gossip, the uneasy glare of powerful figures and the divide between their worlds. Yet he also held on to the acts of kindness, the coffee notes, the shared smiles, and the weekend spent cheering alongside Emma. He realized that every challenge only made their connection stronger. And in the quiet glow of the empty office, he silently vowed to stand by Alex's side, just as he knew she would stand by his, whatever storms lay ahead. The tension in the corridors of Sterling Innovations grew almost electric. Rumors had begun to swirl through hushed conversations in the lunchroom and quiet whispers near the elevators. The CEO was spending late nights with one of the cleaners. Marcus heard fragments of these rumors as he emptied waste bins and wiped fingerprints from glass walls. He tried to ignore them, focusing on his work, but each time he passed the executive suite, he felt the weight of unseen eyes following him. That same evening, Marcus rounded a corner and saw Alex standing outside a locked conference room, her shoulders hunched and her hands pressed to her temples. Her usually steady composure cracked as she listened to a stern voice from inside. Carl Thompson's low, firm tone carried through the door. He was demanding explanations for her inappropriate fraternization and warning her that the board was watching. Alex's sharp intake of breath made Marcus freeze. He worried he should step in, but he knew that interfering might only feed the rumor mill further. Minutes later, Alex emerged, her face pale and her eyes glistening. She looked at Marcus without her usual calm smile. For an instant, he saw shame and anger flicker across her features. Then she straightened her back and spoke in a cool, clipped tone. "Marcus, I need you to finish on the lower floors. Focus on your route." Her words felt like a rebuke, and without waiting for his response, she slipped back into her office. Marcus watched the door close, his throat tight. He wanted to knock and ask what had happened, to reassure her that he would stand by her. But the look in her eyes told him that she wanted distance. His heart ached as he returned to his cleaning, each step heavy with hurt. He pushed aside the growing whispers around him, other staff furtively glancing in his direction, and tried to lose himself in the rhythm of mopping and vacuuming. By the time his shift ended, the glow of the city lights had faded into dawn's pale light. Marcus locked the main doors and walked home through empty streets, the silence pressing against him. At his apartment, Emma met him at the door, her eyes bright with questions. "Did something happen at work, Dad?" she asked, her voice gentle. Marcus forced a smile. "Just a long night, kiddo. Everything's fine." But when Emma hugged him, he felt the ache in his chest more keenly. He kissed her forehead and told her a bedtime story, but his mind kept drifting back to Alex's closed-off expression. The next morning, Marcus arrived for his shift with a heavy sense of dread. He carried his cart more slowly, as if weighed down by the uncomfortable energy hanging over the building. He cleaned with careful precision, avoiding Alex's floor, entirely, still stung by her abrupt dismissal. He wondered if their friendship was truly over, and if his simple acts of kindness, coffee runs, network fixes, had been a mistake. Meanwhile, Alex paced her office late into the night, guilt gnawing at her resolve. Board members had demanded that she maintain professional boundaries, and in her effort to protect both her reputation and Marcus, she had pushed him away. Yet sleep eluded her. She thought back to the small notes he left, the way he quietly aligned her keyboard and refilled her paper tray. She realized that her abrupt coldness had hurt him deeply, and that her greatest mistake wasn't about company policy, but about shutting out someone who had stood by her when no one else would. Far from the glass towers of Sterling Innovations, Emma sat at their kitchen table with a pencil and a clean sheet of paper. She had overheard her father's weary sighs and seen how he barely spoke Alex's name anymore. Determined to bring back the warmth she remembered, Emma wrote a letter in her careful, looping script. "Dear Ms. Reed, thank you for being so kind to my dad. He tells me you helped each other at work and that you had fun at the company event. I think you are both strong and brave. Please tell my dad that I miss his smile when he talks about you. Maybe you can be friends again. Love, Emma Hayes." She folded the note into a small envelope and placed it in her school bag, planning to give it to her teacher, who agreed to hand it to Alex in confidence. The next day, Alex found the envelope on her desk, unmarked except for Emma's neat handwriting. She broke the seal and read the words, feeling a sudden warmth spread through her chest. Tears pricked her eyes as she realized how much Emma and Marcus had come to mean to her. The board's warnings still echoed in her mind, but they faded beneath the genuine affection of a child's note. That evening, Alex waited outside Marcus's usual cleaning route, determined to apologize. When he approached, he spotted her standing in the hallway, looking relieved and vulnerable all at once. "Marcus," she said softly, holding out Emma's letter. "I'm sorry. I was afraid of what others would think, afraid of losing my job, and afraid of letting you down." Her voice trembled. Marcus hesitated, then took the envelope. He read Emma's words and his eyes filled with tears. He folded the letter gently and met Alex's gaze. "You didn't let me down," he said, his voice thick. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. You were under pressure and I understand. But I missed our friendship." Alex nodded, relief flooding her face. She placed a hand on his arm. A respectful, grateful touch. "Can we start over?" she asked. "On our own terms, no rumors, no titles, just two people helping each other." Marcus smiled, the tight knot of pain in his chest finally loosening. "I'd like that." They walked together to the break room where Marcus refilled the coffee machine and Alex retrieved 2 fresh cups. They found a quiet corner and sipped in companionable silence, each appreciating the simple moment. For the first time in weeks, they felt free from the weight of boardroom politics and office gossip. When Emma arrived for her weekend visit, she found Alex and Marcus sitting side by side, laughing over a shared memory. Emma ran into her father's arms, then turned to Alex with a bright smile. Alex knelt to Emma's level, hugging her gently. "Thank you, Emma," she said. "You helped me see what really matters." In that warm afternoon light, the 3 of them stood together, an unconventional family bound not by blood or rank but by trust, kindness, and the belief that true friendship can overcome any obstacle. And as Marcus held Emma's hand and shared a smile with Alex, he knew they had passed the true test, staying united when the world tried to pull them apart. 2. Marcus arrived at the office early one crisp morning, the sky still streaked with pale pink light. Emma was already at his side, clutching a small bouquet of daisies she had picked from their windowsill. Today was the big presentation, the one Alex had been working on for months, and Emma insisted on giving her flowers for luck. Marcus smiled as he adjusted Emma's backpack straps and promised they would both be there to support Alex. Inside Sterling Innovations, the lobby was buzzing. Employees and investors filled the sleek glass corridors, chatting about the company's recent successes. Marcus walked past familiar cleaning stations, his uniform freshly pressed for the first time in weeks. He felt the pride of belonging, no longer just the man who polished floors, but a valued member of a team that welcomed him. Emma skipped ahead, carrying her daisies carefully, and Marcus followed her toward the auditorium. Alex stood backstage, smoothing the hem of her jacket, and taking deep breaths. The stage lights glowed through the curtain and the hum of anticipation drifted back to her. When she saw Marcus and Emma in the front row, she felt a warm flutter in her chest. Marcus gave her an encouraging nod, and Emma waved, her daisy petals bobbing. Alex realized that no boardroom debate or investor critique would compare to the support of 2 people who believed in her. The presentation began with charts and numbers, showcasing Sterling Innovations' latest product line. Alex spoke confidently, her voice clear and steady, weaving in stories of teamwork and dedication. Then she paused and said, "I want to thank someone who's been an unexpected but vital part of our journey." She gestured toward Marcus, and he stood surprised as the audience turned to look. "Marcus Hayes," she continued, "started as our night cleaner, but he taught me that respect and kindness are the true foundations of a successful company." A ripple of applause filled the room, and Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. He glanced at Emma, whose eyes were wide with awe. Alex stepped off the stage and hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you for everything." Marcus held her in return, realizing how far they had both come, from cautious strangers to close friends to something more. After the presentation, investors approached Alex to congratulate her on the seamless execution. She introduced Marcus as her colleague, explaining how his insights into the building's operations had inspired improvements to their office design and energy efficiency. Marcus laughed in surprise when one investor thanked him for suggesting motion sensor lighting in the hallways, a small idea that saved the company thousands of dollars. He felt his chest swell with pride, knowing that simple observations had real impact. That evening, Alex invited Marcus and Emma to dinner at a cozy bistro near the waterfront. The menus were handheld chalkboards, and the air smelled of fresh bread and herbs. As they settled into a corner table, Alex reached across and squeezed Marcus's hand. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said softly. Marcus brushed a stray hair from Emma's forehead and smiled. "We did it together," he replied. Over plates of pasta and salad, they shared stories and laughter. Emma chattered about school and how she wanted to build her own robot one day. Alex listened with genuine interest, asking questions and making Emma giggle. Marcus watched them both and felt a deep sense of happiness. A life that once felt so fragile now brimmed with possibility. In the weeks that followed, Marcus's role at Sterling Innovations expanded. The facilities manager offered him a part-time position overseeing building maintenance during the day, allowing him to be home with Emma in the evenings. He accepted gratefully, thrilled by the stability it provided. Each morning, he walked into the building not as a lowly cleaner but as a leader, coordinating a small team and planning improvements. He carried with him the lessons he had learned, that hard work, honesty, and a caring heart could open doors no title ever could. Alex, too, evolved in her leadership. She instituted Night Owl Appreciation, a monthly meeting where overnight, staff and executives could meet informally, share ideas, and recognize each other's contributions. She stood in the break room one night, watching cleaners and engineers laugh over coffee and donuts, and felt a swell of pride. The old walls between management and staff had begun to come down, all because a single act of trust had sparked a new way of working. On a bright Saturday, Emma invited Alex to her school's science fair. Dressed in her white lab coat and safety goggles, Emma proudly demonstrated her simple robot that could sort colored blocks. Alex knelt beside her, asking thoughtful questions and encouraging her to refine her design. When Emma's robot successfully sorted all the blocks, the two of them cheered together, and Marcus stood off to the side, tears of joy brimming in his eyes. He saw in that moment how far they had traveled, from uncertainty and fear to support and celebration. As spring turned into summer, the three of them settled into a comfortable routine. Sunday mornings meant pancakes at their favorite cafe, followed by walks in the park where Alex joined Marcus and Emma for kite flying. Evenings often found them at home, Emma curled up with a book while Marcus and Alex cooked dinner side by side, sharing news of their days. Their conversations ranged from work challenges to Emma's latest school project, always woven with laughter and understanding. Looking back on the months since Marcus first started cleaning at Sterling Innovations, he hardly recognized the man he used to be. He had gone from a fearful, struggling single father to a confident leader with a bright future. But beyond the promotions and public praise, the greatest change lay in his heart. He had found love and friendship in the most unexpected place. Alex, too, reflected on her journey. She had learned that strength did not lie in rigid boundaries or fear of judgment, but in vulnerability and human connection. By opening her office to Marcus, she had discovered a partner whose simple wisdom and unwavering support enriched her life beyond measure. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their apartment, Emma asleep inside, Marcus wrapped an arm around Alex and pointed to the city skyline. "Look how far we've come," he said softly. Alex leaned her head on his shoulder. "And look how far we'll go," she replied. They sat together in companionable silence, the lights of the city twinkling like promises in the night. In that quiet moment, they understood that their story was about more than a cleaner and a CEO. It was about trust, respect, and the remarkable ways two people can lift each other up. And as they gazed out at the world they helped shape, they knew this was only the beginning of their shared journey.